So right now I'm on the landing page and I am not logged into the website. I'm just here as a general user. And so I have a couple options when I come here. I could log in or create an account, which we will do here shortly. I have a search tool here at the top if I wanted to search in a specific word, or maybe I'm not sure really what I want to look for. So I can roll down and look by category. So for example, if I am looking for something related to, let's pick, Tess is on here, let's pick speech communication. So it's going to search and it pulls up a more advanced search box, but because I previously had searched for AT Lending Center, I'm going to go backwards a little bit where it says all categories, all programs, and all transaction types. So again, I'm going to go back to the home screen, and I can also get to this by doing an advanced search up in the toolbar, but I'm going to roll down and pick my speech communication. So it's pulling up the category of speech communication. It's pulling up all the various programs that have their inventories in here, and it's going to pull up transaction types, and we're going to dive into those a little bit here. But as I scroll down, I'm going to start to see a variety of speech communication devices. Now, I will have to say sometimes there may be an anomaly in the inventory, just depending on how an individual program put their equipment into here. But as you can see, we have a variety of equipment and a variety of locations where this type of equipment is located. So I might want to look at a different category. I might pick hearing, and I might want to know what the Center for Independent Living out of Menominee has, because maybe that's the IL center that serves my area. So then I can drill down and look to see what types of devices that they might have for hearing loss in this center. So I'm going to come back up here at the top. So again, we've got our categories that we can search by. So from computers to daily living to environmental, we have our programs. And so I can pick the different programs that have equipment inventories in here. And we'll talk a little bit more about that here in a moment. I just want to cover this screen. And then under transaction type, we have the option of what types of devices are available for loan. We have what types of devices are available for wanted. And that is not used very much. But because this is a website that is open to the public, from time to time, we have someone that is looking for a device. So it might be a person with a disability that's looking to get maybe a different wheelchair, or maybe they're looking for a speech device. Anyone has the ability to put a wanted listing on here. Like I said, it's not used very often. So then we have our loans. We have a demo category at the bottom, because there are some pieces of equipment that are not available for loan through our inventories. And an example of that might be a tub transfer bench. So that's kind of a personal device. And so our inventories choose to let people demonstrate those. So they might bring it out to their house, or they might try it at an office. But what happens is they aren't borrowing it. So they're not, using to actually shower. They might be trying it they're fully clothed. And each of our partner programs, they have the ability to decide whether something is a demo or a loan. That's up to them. We do not place any kind of rules for them on that, because they're individual agencies. They have the right to decide what their policies are. You're also going to see items that might be free or for sale. So again, some of our partners will have used equipment for sale, or they might have something for free. So I'm going to come over. So are there any questions in the chat so far on this?
Nope, not seen any. Kathy did put the website in.
Perfect, thank you. I was gonna ask for that. So I'm gonna come over here on the left-hand side. And I'm gonna come all the way to the bottom where it says participating programs. So I'm gonna list this. And you'll see, and actually I think Jeffrey's on this page, but it is an inactive program, but these are all of our partners, either current or pending partners. And so we've got Access to Independence, we've got the ATLC from CISA 2, we've got the Bureau of Correctional Enterprises, so that's that used equipment. We've got Center for Independent Living, Department of Health Services, so those are the devices that we loan out centrally. We have the Good News Project, which they are a used equipment program. We've got Independence First, Independent Living Resources, Indigo, and then we have two dedicated used equipment programs. One is through Independence First, and one is through Options for Independent Living. So on AT for All, we've separated out the free equipment that's available for giveaway from the regular loan and demo equipment. So those are indicated by the word lend. Then we have Mid-State, Independent Living, the Office for Deaf Hard of Hearing, Options for Independent Living, and Society's Assets. So if I wanted to search by one of these, I can use that search tool, but this just gives you that contact information. And if I click here, it's going to give me their website. It's going to let me know their contact information and how long can I borrow something, which is 30 days. And it's an agency and they participate in federal reporting. Because obviously with the AT Act, we have to report all of this federally. So this is information that is available, or the navigation that I've done. I have not logged in, I have not created an account. I've simply gone to the website. So I'm going to come back down here and I'm going to come up into the search tool and I'm going to type in iPad. And my internet has been really strange today, so I'm just a fair warning right now. So I typed in iPad, and so I start to see a list of who has iPads available for loan. But I'm going to pretend that I am Tessa, who knows that she can borrow them from Department of Health Services. So I can view the information about this device. Actually, let me go back. All right, so I can see this device, but as you notice, on the right side, it says login to place in the cart. So that's grayed out. Because I am not logged in, I don't have the ability to pick the device and put it in my shopping cart, quote unquote, to then borrow it. So this is where I would be prompted to actually make an account. And I would go ahead and do that on the left-hand side. And so if I did not have an account, I would select create an account. It would prompt me to enter our standard fields that we do when we make an account. There is a verification process with the AT for All. So essentially you'll get an email that you need to click through that then completes that verification for your account. Sometimes those go to spam or junk mail, so it's always good to check there. Occasionally there's a glitch on the internet and that email does not go through, so then people will reach out to me and ask for that. So I'm going to go ahead and log in to my fake account, my tester account. So now I am logged in. And so I want to go ahead and do that search again. And I know that I want to borrow this piece of equipment from Department of Health Services. So I see DHS W3, that's the iPad. It tells me it's an 8th generation, 32 gig. Apps are available upon request. It tells me that I'll have to go to fill out another form just so I can indicate what features I want on that device, but I can add that to my cart. So then on the upper right, I actually have a shopping cart. And I want to go, I'll have my cart choices I'm not sure why it says print labels, but basically I would go to this checkout. I would click checkout. And actually, I think this set one is not set up as a full test account. So essentially what's going to happen, I'm going to go back out of here because I don't want to confuse you. So when I would go out of that checkout, it would then prompt me to go ahead and it would send an email that I would receive on my work email. And then I would go ahead and proceed with making that request. So I'm going to go back to our home. And are there
Hey,
questions?
Laura, can I interrupt you for a second?
Please do.
So how do people know where or what programs they can borrow from?
So when we come down to our participating programs, get out of there. Do that. All right. So when we go and look at a device, actually, I'm going to go back to the iPad. And I'm going to pull up the iPad mini. That's just the cover. I'm going to go to this one here. So I'm looking at this iPad mini and it says options for independent living. And I'm like, whoa, I'm 194 miles from Green Bay. That's kind of far. So I'm going to come to the contact information. And right here, it's going to tell me my service criteria. They are serving the following counties: Brown, Calumet, et cetera, et cetera. So that tells me that if I don't live in that county, that is not a device that I can borrow. And so again, it's important to know which service area that you are, especially, with that independent living centers. And then when we look at our participating programs, you can see right here, we've got the ATLC and it's school-based loans. And so when I would look at any of their devices, over here, I'm going to clear that out. And I'm going to search the ATLC. And if I click the Tobii Dynafox, and I'm looking at who has got it, it indicates our service is only available to Wisconsin Public Schools. So that contact information, and by and large, when people are requesting items, they might put it in the cart, but typically they're looking at that item and they're going in and looking at the contact information, because many people still want to make a phone call or they want to send a direct email in order to borrow something. Did that answer that question enough for you?
It did for me. Let's see.
We just had
Tessa
a
put in
question.
there when the zip code entry area filter it.
It will, I guess I haven't played as much with just searching by zip code, but you certainly can search by zip code. And then I see that Iris asked about shipping. So because each of our programs are individual programs, one of the key things that we like to do is make sure that equipment is right for people. So the AT Lending Center, they ship all of the state. Our programs will ship as well within their service region, but because it's regional, more than likely it's something that someone would pick up, or they would the agency staff would actually go out and meet with the person, teach them how to use a piece of equipment, get them set up to use that piece of equipment. Like our iPads that come from DHS, those are shipped because we actually use a third party out of state that will set the devices up, they'll clean them, they can manage them remotely, things like that. And then the other question that comes up a lot is, yeah, we don't ship wheelchairs. We try to work that out either if someone is traveling around the state, but we are not able to ship wheelchairs. typically we try to work with supporting either a driver that can do that type of transportation. The ALS Association, obviously that doesn't apply to schools populations, but they move a lot of durable medical equipment around the state, and we do support those costs related to that, or some of those costs related to that. But another question we often get is, what if this piece of equipment is not in my service area, but I know that I want to borrow it, and so I might live in the Center for Independent Living's area. I might live in Dunn County or Eau Claire County, and that device is available through Options for Independent Living in Green Bay. So what happens is you would actually initiate that conversation with the Independent Living Center in your area. So I would have a conversation with Center for Independent Living and explain, so Options has this device, I'd really like to try this out. So then the two agencies will work together, similar to an interlibrary loan, where Options will work with the Center for Independent Living to get that device from Green Bay to Menominee, and then that person can borrow it. So very similar, like I said, to an interlibrary loan. So there's no requirement that they do that, but most of the time, all the agencies work very, very closely together. And so we always do our best to try to get equipment for that person to try, even if it is outside their service area. Our inventories are not identical from one center to the other. There are many, many devices that are, so they have a lot of the same equipment, but because they are consumer driven and consumer responsive, one area may have more of one type of equipment than another area. For example, our independent living centers in the north, so Indigo, Center for Independent Living, Midstate, they may have more outdoor equipment for like hunting and fishing, whereas Independence First in Milwaukee may not have as much of that equipment. Some of our centers have more gaming equipment than others. So Center for Independent Living, Access to Independence, and Midstate have more adaptive gaming. And Options for Independent Living has our largest inventory for outdoor recreation, such as wheeled mobility. So track chairs, terrain hoppers, e-bikes, things like that. So they do have that leeway to kind of be responsive to the consumers in their service area. Doesn't mean that you can't set up a time to go and try something out at another agency. It's just you'd make that appointment and you would work out, the ability to do so. And then in my account, if I had items out that I did not delete myself. Anyway, you could once you're logged in, you can actually see what do you have out, what do you have, when is it due? I don't know if Tessa wanted to unmute it all and kind of share her experience using that system. I think that might be potentially helpful if she is still on, and don't mean to necessarily put you on the spot, Tessa, but if you are still here.
Yeah, what did you want me to elaborate on?
I mean, just maybe share your experience. You are probably our highest user of AT for All, I would have to say. So yeah, you get the award.
I get the
and
award.
I still owe you 2 iPads this week.
Oh, you do? Yes. Okay. Well, my experience is awesome. I will say, there's even so much on there that I don't even think of, so it's kind of nice just to peruse there. And I know even through our like AT group at DPI, like we added a bunch of things. And so I just really want to encourage folks to check it out. But my biggest utilization is I work with a lot of itty bitty districts that don't just have quick and easy access to iPads for students. And so I use that Department for Health Services loan a lot. And it's so slick and easy. I kind of fill it out. You go through the process. I tend to do some of the paperwork for my teams, and then I show them how to do it. So hopefully the next time they can be more independent, but then I just have it shipped to them. And there's like a whole huge arsenal of apps across like lots of different needs. So I tend to use it mostly for AAC and there's lots of options. And so I kind of select the app that the team, after we eval the student, that we'd like to trial. And then it just gets to them for that month-long trial to help with that decision making. And sometimes we have to make another request if we want to try something else. It's very similar to the ATLC as well. It's just another option. So ATLC has a lot of great products as well, and a lot of that dedicated equipment, but this is just a nice iPad-based option. And so it's really slick. So normally for that process, for the iPads, you kind of submit it on the AT4ALL website. And then following that submission, Laura, I think it's you, I don't think it's automated, it follows up with a form. And using that form is you just indicate what apps you're looking for to trial. So, and then it just shows up. It's like magic. I don't know who does it, but poof, there it is.
And the form that Tessa's referring to is just it's a iPad loan information form. It just gives us more information about not only the apps that are needed in there, but if there's accessibility features we need to turn on or turn off, as well as the end user, the ship to. So where does this actually need to go? Because quite often Tessa's making those requests on behalf of a district. And so we need to be very clear where that shipping address is. And then that the iPad is shipped out. It's actually, we use a company out of Missouri called Teltex. So they're the ones that manage that inventory. And if we don't have an app, then we just buy it. So if you make a request and we don't have it, I blame Tessa for how many copies of protocol we have, as well as Touch Chat and several others. But we have a robust inventory now so that we can have five versions or 5 iPads out with the most requested apps for speech. We also loan them out for other reasons, other users. We've got one that actually does have cellular service on it if there is an instance where someone does not have access to Wi-Fi. The most recent one was an older couple who wasn't sure they wanted an iPad. But they didn't really have reliable internet where they lived. It was in the middle of nowhere. And so we did one with cellular coverage so that they could actually see if he was going to use it or not. And in this case, he didn't. Wife thought he would, he didn't. So we just saved him $1,000 by not getting an iPad. So, but as Tessa said, it's just worth scrolling through the different categories. It's kind of like just looking at a catalog, or as going back to our clothing analogy, it's standing at the clothes rack, paging through to see what actually exists, because you'll never know what kind of idea might spark. And I do that same thing when I'm literally in any kind of store, a home improvement store. I'm always looking around at what type of equipment might be considered adaptive. What could I use this for, to maybe modify something or to make something easier and make the process smoother. And so I just encourage people to continue to make those requests to borrow equipment, to learn about what's out there. If at any time anyone has any issues or with responsiveness of any of our partners, or gets any kind of indication that, well, you're a school district, really the family should ask to borrow it, that's where you would reach out to me, because I would like to, this is really for professionals, it's for families, it's for the consumer that has a disability, it is for everybody. So I really like to emphasize that.
Can I ask Tessa a question? Tessa, do you ever run into a situation where, I know, certain apps are blocked by certain districts, where you request an iPad from the center, it shows up with this app, and then the district's like, hey, our students aren't supposed to be using that app?
I haven't. I normally, when I get the loans, like, are you talking about like Safari or having something like that that's not restricted?
Well, and I know some places don't allow Siri, or some places don't allow different apps that haven't been, like, maybe for student data privacy. And they require the students to log in or something.
Yeah, I have not encountered that. I will say normally when I'm using the apps, I don't typically put like heavy restrictions on, but I know how to do that if I had a kiddo that was needing that, but I typically use it under guided access. And then it's very well established that this is just kind of like a trial. Okay, so the kiddo for the most part is not going to have free reign with the equipment all day, every day. Or at least not to the extent where it would lose, because guided access will stop if the device loses battery, if it dies. So typically, if we turn guided access on and we charge it at night, then the kiddo can't access all those other things. They can only access the app that we're using. And I'd say 99% of the time that app is like an AAC app. And so those are pretty well equipped to be able to like lock them in and not be able to do anything if you know how to set it up. And so I just set it up so it hasn't been an issue. That's a good question. I've actually never had anybody pose that question. You've increased my awareness of that. I haven't thought of that.
Thank you.
And this is Laura, and we recently loaned one to a prison. So we went through these security hoops. So Teltex is able to lock down devices. So we actually ended up doing with 2 loans. The first one was where the inmate and the staff member from Access to Independence sat down, and we put like 3 apps on there. The inmate did not have unrestricted access to the device. It was really a demonstration where they decided which app they wanted. So then that device went back. The other one, then with only that app, and it could not do anything but that app, was then sent out in order for the inmate to use it. So we have had that situation where we've got the ability to lock devices if it's necessary, if it's put into that request. And then I see a question in chat that says, do school teams need to have information in an IEP or 504 before requesting an equipment loan or before a device can be sent to a school or student? That would not be a question for me, because that's nothing, we don't have any kind of stipulations related to that. So I would have to, that would be a question for DPI or another teacher or a school district, essentially. I don't know if you want to unmute Eric at all or share more or.
No, I appreciate that answer. I get there are other levels that might be at play, but good to know that from your end, that's not a catch.
Yeah, nope, we just don't want people stealing our stuff. That's pretty much it. That's the key. So Anne, I see you did you want to, I saw you turn your camera on.
I was just gonna, so I work for the Middleton School District, and I was gonna comment about the iPad thing and locking all the apps off, because I worked closely with the tech department on removing everything from devices so that students, even if they get out of guided access or learn that if it dies, they can move it into other things so that there's nothing else on there. And it's been super successful for some of our students, or maybe they can access 3 or 4 apps for academics, but that's it on the iPad, and they're pretty much, and that's pretty much all it is. And at first we thought that would mess with like how the iPad worked, or if it would mess with mess with like updates and things, and it really hasn't. It's been super successful.
That's great. I think that's helpful for districts to hear. And it is a matter of working closely with that IT department. You have to do that in a workplace. You have to do that at schools as well. And, the last thing you want is, oh, well, that student gets to do this. Why can't I? And then that comes into play then with some of Eric's question, well, is it in the IEP that they have access to this? And that will then, have an impact for sure.